108. Let's get to the first of two Star Wars standalone films that go along with the sequel trilogy, which, if I haven't already mentioned it, you can now get all five of these reviews together, re edited, compilation sort of style on our bonus show page at filmbuds.bandcamp.com. So if you don't want to listen to them broken up and all that, you can just go donate $1 and listen to them all together and get your own MP3 file. But anyways, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story came out in 2016. It's directed by Gareth Edwards, stars Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, Donnie Yen, Wen Jiang, Ben Mendelsohn, Guy Henry, Mads Mikkelsen, Riz Ahmed, and a few others. And the synopsis is: in a time of conflict, a group of unlikely heroes band together on a mission to steal the plans to the Death Star, the Empire's ultimate weapon of destruction. So this one came out just after, like a year after The Force Awakens. So we were just getting into Star Wars reboot territory where things hadn't really been oversaturated yet, as they are kind of now with Disney Plus and all that. And I was curious about it for sure. My main interest was I loved Gareth Edwards because of Godzilla, the Godzilla movie, the first one in the franchise. Then loved Felicity Jones as well. And then just any Star Wars movie I was up for sure. But really didn't know anything about the story or what to expect or whatever. And it seems as though, I mean, there are a lot of people who feel this way. I don't know if it's the majority or not, but this is by far my favorite of all the new films. It would be my second favorite, at least, of every Star Wars movie, with just being under Empire Strikes Back. I think this movie, I've seen it 5, 6, 7 times at least over the years. I think it is so compelling. It's so wonderfully self-contained, and it's the kind of movie that Star Wars needs. It's not something that is setting up a bunch of different things to be seen later. It's its own story. It's about a group of characters who, it's not a spoiler at this point, they all die. And it's basically like a season of a TV show or something made into a movie where there's no sequels possible for this other than the obvious movies that have already been made. And so I think that's great. The grittiness, I love how it's not like some crazy R-rated violent movie, but I think it's refreshingly edgy and rough and grim, and it's not too flashy or too glossy. It's a little bit more rugged. And I think the overall group of characters, it goes along with most of Gareth Edwards' movies where he's not great at character development. I don't think like anyone in this isn't that compelling. It's mostly because of the performances. I think Felicity Jones is perfect, and everybody else pretty good. But some quick points: looks amazing. I think the cinematography is great. The locations, I love the look. One thing in particular, I love Felicity Jones's home, like that home planet. I love where you meet Riz Ahmed, that area, like the locations. I don't know what is effects and what's not, but it looks great. The score by Michael Giacchino, pretty solid. It has moments of being a little bit better. I know that he came on after the original composer was replaced. I'd be curious to hear that score, but overall the score is good. And there was the big thing with this movie where the trailers looked completely different from what the actual movie was because of reshoots and this and that. And so I would be also curious to see that movie. Not to say that this one is bad, but I would still like to see some of those images and sequences that were in the trailers. But another thing, Mads Mikkelsen, amazing. He's just great across the board, so underrated. As an actor, Ben Mendelsohn, a great role for him. He's one of the best character actors working today, in my opinion. And the one scene that always hits me so hard, and I'm like waiting for it to happen because it's such a good line, it's such a good delivery, and it's such a good just overall directed moment, is that night sequence where Jyn Erso, which is Felicity Jones, she encounters her dad, and there's that last moment with him where he's looking up at her, and there's been all this time gone by where he hasn't seen her since she was a kid, and so a whole lifetime has gone by without him, and he's like, I have so much to tell you, and then he dies. I think that is such a evocative line, just thinking, if anyone who you've known in your life who has died, or you haven't seen in years, in decades, whatever. And there's this whole lifetime without you or without that person. And you're thinking, God, I wish I had all that time to tell you everything that happened. And especially if it's like a father, daughter, child, parent relationship, I think that is a perfect moment and one that always has stuck with me. But other than that, the sequence with Forrest Whitaker, I don't love Forrest Whitaker in general. He's kind of hit and miss. I like the sound work on his breathing machine. I think that's good. And that whole sequence with the town fight, that's very well done. And that eventual escape, I think all that works really well. And the action is very well shot. And then going back real quick, the sequence at the beginning with Mads Mikkelsen meeting Ben Mendelsohn, love that whole sequence where Jyn Erso is escaping as a child. Few minor things besides just the lack of or little character development, which isn't really a big issue. It's just one I've noticed on rewatch. The mantra, the Force mantra by Donnie Yen, that's the only thing I'd say that gets a little tiresome. It's just so repetitive and it comes across as a little too goofy, not really, to me, not tonally on point with everything else. So that's the only thing I'm like, just all right, let's get this over with. I like Donnie Yen, but I don't love that Force mantra thing that he's spouting out all the time. But not a big issue. Then the raid attack siege on the compound or whatever you want to call it, amazing. I love a good siege sequence in a movie, and this is one of the best. And it's pretty rare you get to see a sci-fi sort of siege, so I love that too. And the final moments with those characters, and when they die, it's like, all right, wow, they're dead. Movie's over. That's what I like. It's not, oh, this character actually survived and he's going to show up in a sequel or spinoff, which I know that Diego Luna's character got the show, which I've seen a little bit of, and it's good. I just haven't finished all of it. But it's saying, all right, characters are dead. Next movie, next story. And so that's what I love. We need more of these self-contained, restrained, gritty, off the cuff, one-off stories. So I'm a big, big fan of it. Holds up fully, never really gets old. Will probably always be at least top 3. I'm curious to see what they do next with after Rise of Skywalker, but we'll see. But I would happily watch more spin-off films that take place in their own little corner and just feed into another big overarching film or storyline. Besides that, not a whole lot else that really stands out immediately. I think Riz Ahmed, I love him in general. He's great. Alan Tudyk as the robot, pretty good. I don't always love having to have these robot sidekicks in every single Star Wars story, but I think he's pretty good. And it was in the first stages of the reboot franchise, so it still feels a little bit fresher than some of the others. Also, the production design overall, very good. And the costume design, if I haven't already mentioned that, really good. I think when Riz Ahmed, we first meet him, how the masks of those soldiers, mercenaries, whoever look, I think there's some great designs of masks and suits and guns. So it's very strong. And that's something Gareth Edwards has carried through all of his movies, even the creator, which I didn't love, but the design of that movie was top notch. Yeah, it's a great movie. So that is a heavy, heavy 5 out of 5.